You know, I went from cover to cover throughout the Bible to try to see what it had to say about Satan. And I came up with this: bait, hook, line, and sinker. Bait. Satan is a tempter. But hook, hidden inside every bait that lures us, is a hook. And it's going to try to hold on to us. And that shows us that Satan is a deceiver. He's disguised, the hook. Line. Satan is an accuser. You can think about it of an accuser, a line of accusation comes out his mouth, or that he takes the fishing line and lifts up out of the water his catch and says to God, "Look what I found." And then sinker. What was designed to take the bait down, the hook down, and the line down was designed to destroy us. Satan is a destroyer. Today is part 2 of Will Robbins' amazing story of restoration. And today you'll see how Satan was a tempter, a deceiver, an accuser, and a destroyer.
For me, it was one of those. I had a lot of friends back home that had gotten pretty big into the drug game, and it was a simple phone call and go pick something up over here and bring it back to my buddies. And you know, I had a lot of soccer players that I was friends with from the school that they were into all kind of different things, and I figured I can make some money just making a road trip and picking something up and taking it to some friends of mine, and making a little bit of money just to party and just to be able to, you know, to drink and partake in whatever drug was popular at that time. And that turned into a full-time job. You know, once I got a taste of how much money I could really make and how fast I could make it with a minimal amount of effort, it just spiraled out of control, where next thing you know, I was selling every drug, and the quantities were just getting bigger and bigger, and it really got to a point where, you know, I had to leave Fort Wayne. We had narcotics agents who were asking questions to family, friends, and you know, different things started happening where it was all kind of crumbling down here. So I had to leave Fort Wayne, and you know, went through the cycle of trying to get out of the drug game and trying to clean my life up and make something of myself. And you know, moved over to South Bend, Mishawaka area with my sister at that time, who had taken a job as an accountant over there, and she had graduated by then, college. And you know, that lasted. It was short-lived, 2 or 3 months, and you know, then.
Are you dealing there?
Yeah, in the beginning I wasn't. I was just back to playing volleyball, playing on a little semi-pro beach tour up in Michigan, and getting back into volleyball again. And then it's only a matter of time before, you know, I got plugged in with that party crowd over there and was back to selling over there, and, you know, made some bigger connections where now I was going to bigger quantities, and it just went from there. You know, anytime the cops start getting close to you, they start questioning people in your circle get arrested, and then they start telling, then you know it's time to go. It's time to either stop what you're doing or it's time to leave. And I decided to go ahead and leave South Bend. We were right there on campus dealing with all the Notre Dame students, and decided we'd move to Purdue's campus and be down there in Lafayette and start, you know, selling to all the college kids down there.
So you realize that's your marketplace?
Yeah, that was kind of, I had found my niche in the business world. That would be kind of, I guess, the way to explain it, and college students.
I want to know how you feel when you're leaving Fort Wayne for South Bend, and then when you leave South Bend for Lafayette. What do you feel like? They're getting close to you, the cops are asking questions to people who are closer to you. Do you have an adrenaline rush? Do you think, what am I doing? Do you think back to the $1,000 you took out of your dad's wallet? I mean, what kind of thoughts are going through your head, and how are you feeling about that? You're
constantly having regrets. You're constantly looking back at how did I get here, looking at your childhood, what am I doing, you know, what am I doing with my life? You know, my mother didn't raise me this way. And you start to look back
I had that same exact thought about myself. Continue.
Yeah, it's you know, you really start, you know, the guilt starts to come upon you and just really beat you down, and you almost have to stay high, or you have to stay drunk just to continue to move forward in that lifestyle, just because that pain just gets overwhelming.
You need more and more of a fix to actually numb that pain.
Exactly. I mean, because we all have a conscience, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever. We all have that conscience that God had given us, and that conscience starts to weigh pretty heavy upon you. And when you're living that life, you know, any person in their right mind knows that they're doing something wrong. And you know, with me, I'd had so many opportunities to succeed. And so all of that remorse from not taking advantage of those opportunities started to really weigh on me, on top of, you know, the family, and how I'd let the family down. And they started to really see what I was involved in. And when they see me show up in a brand new car or nice clothes and jewelry and these different things.
You're buying it, you're spending the money.
Yeah, the questions they're asking me, you know, where am I working now? Where am I getting all this money? Different things, and having to lie to your grandmother or your mother, you know, really starts to take a toll on you. So at any given time, all of that was weighing pretty heavy on me, but my thing was just to move forward and, you know, think about today or tomorrow or tonight and not think about the long-term kind of consequences or where my life was headed. I would just try to focus on today and making more money and where the next party was. And got to a point, you know, when selling a lot of drugs, I'm providing all the drugs for the party. And, you know, we get to a point where, you know, we're living the life, and VIP ended up from South Bend to Lafayette and then down to Indianapolis. And down in Indianapolis, it really just got out of hand, and got involved with some really, really big money people. And they were involved in everything from owners of race car teams on the IRL circuit to just lawyers and politicians and just different people that
who were partying with you.
Oh yeah, they were partying, were into heavier drugs, and I mean, I got laughed at because I smoked weed, you know, and they're into these drugs, and, you know, cocaine and ecstasy was big at that time, and just liquid E and all these different things. And
you're dealing in all those and making thousands a week.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was nothing to, you know, in one, you know, phone call, one trip, to make anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000.
And it's never enough.
Oh, it's never enough.
Because it began from just wanting to play video games and get some candy, and then just to party for the night, and it becomes more and more.
Yeah, it comes back down to that spiritual void that we all have. You know, we all desire, God has created us to have that spiritual relationship with Him. And if you don't have that relationship, you're always lacking something. You're always desiring something more. And as unbelievers, you're constantly trying to find something out there in the world that can fill that void. And for me, it was material possessions, it was drugs, it was women, it was just all these different things, you know, acceptance from my peers. And so I tried to fill that void with all these different things. And every single time, it would always come up short. And so I would go for more. I would try to make more money, or we would try to have bigger parties. And next thing you know, we're riding in limousines every night, and we're having 20 people in the limousines and going from bar to bar and every drug you could imagine. And it just was, you know, in the world's eyes, I mean, we were living the dream. We had it all. I mean, from the clothes to cars to the women to jewelry to just drugs and money. And you know, and at that point, at my highest point, I was still miserable. You know, I had still really hated what I had become and hated the life that I had been involved in, and just the situation that all of that kind of presents. I mean, just with family, I had to cut off all ties with family, just because you hate answering the questions. You don't want anybody that you're involved with in that lifestyle knowing that you have a family, knowing that there's someone there that is dear to you, that they could possibly maybe try to hurt you by hurting them. And down in Indy, we really just got involved in everything that you could ever imagine. I mean, it really just morphed into a whole little criminal empire. I mean, we had a crew of guys that, I mean, literally involved in everything from cracking safes and ATM machines to every single drug, from ecstasy to crack to cocaine to marijuana to acid shrooms. To these guys were just, we were involved in basically everything. Chop shops, I mean, motorcycles, and it was...
Stealing them?
Oh, yeah.
So you're kind of partners with a few guys?
Yeah. We had a circle of guys that everyone had their area of expertise, and we really had kind of put together a little crew that, you know, we had, at any given night, we would have 2 or 3 crews out doing different jobs or out in the club selling different drugs. And then that was just our inner circle. Then we had an outer circle that we were selling to. Because at that time, we had gotten to a point where we didn't do a lot of the selling. It was more of we would take the bigger quantities, break it up, and give it to some of the other guys who were actually out there in the clubs or out there in the street actually selling the drugs. And we had kind of worked our way up the hierarchy where we didn't have to be out there and be as exposed as much. We were just more into actually just partying and you know, partaking in the spoils of it.
So at some point, you decide there's a way to get a whole lot of money at one time.
At that time, it was probably about 7 years in. I had been living this life and really had kind of gone off the deep end and was always looking for a way out. And, you know, like I said, we were taking greater and greater risks. And in my clouded judgment, in my drug-induced mind frame, I had always looked at one big score, just to finally get out of this. I could make enough money that I could completely retire and completely just walk away from the drug game and that whole lifestyle and open up my little bar, you know, and just walk away from everything. And so we had always joked around as we would be out doing different criminal activities. We would always see banks. And we would always say, you know, wow, what, you know, how much money you think is in there? How much money could we really make? You know, we watched all the movies, grew up on all the Westerns and, you know, looking at, oh, bank robbery, wow, you know, what if we did one of those? But it was always just kind of a joke, you know, and never really that serious. But it was always, you know, kind of in the back of our mind that if we're taking all these what we call penitentiary chances, you know, these chances to get caught and go to prison. And, you know, we're taking all these chances. Why are we doing it for these, you know, tens of, you know, 5, 10, 15, $20,000 when we could be making 100,000 or $1 million? And so we had always just dreamed about not only a bank, but just also bigger on the ladder of drugs and, you know, and kilos and airplanes and bringing in real huge shipments. And, you know, it was just those type of dreams that led to the actual bank. And, you know, what started off as a joke, you know, just an idea, became very real. You know, a friend of mine had actually got into trouble. You know, he's a football player, grew up, you know, good grades, good family, played football, was a star in high school and went to college and played. And you know, was a great kid, but got pretty heavily involved in drugs. And by that time, he had moved down to Indy. You know, this kid I went to high school with, he had moved down to Indy, and him and I had kind of reconnected and got involved in some different things. And he was at a really low point in his life and had kind of gotten cut off from his family and you know, was about to get his Lexus repoed, and you know, everything was crumbling down around him. He didn't see a way out. And he gave me a call one day and said, hey, you know, are you serious? You know, I'm about to lose my car. I'm about to lose everything. I think he was losing his apartment at that time. He didn't have anybody to turn to. His family had cut him off. And you know, he said, are you serious about the bank? I'm going to do it. I need somebody. And he knew at that time, I mean, in my youth, I was that wild and crazy kid that everybody would call if they needed something done. And nobody else had the gumption to do it. They'd call me and... You know, I said, when do you want to do it?
So you immediately, you don't have to think about it, you're ready to go.
No, I was that type of person where if somebody came to me and it was a way of making money, or if it was, you know, something that I thought was, you know, whether a way out or a way to make money or, you know, a way to have some fun. I mean, you came to me with the craziest idea, I'd think about it about 2 seconds, and I'm in. And when I'm in, I'm all in. At that time, we had been, you know, like I said, with so many of the activities we're involved in, with chop shops and everything from motorcycles, we had just a plethora of stolen cars all over the city that we had access to. And, you know, I was on the road with my, I had a stolen Z28. I had my pistol, my gloves, my mask, everything, and was on the road down to meet a buddy of mine. And basically that was the beginnings of the end, really, for me.
And did you rob it during the day, during the night?
It was actually first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, when they opened up. Actually waited for the manager who had come in early in the morning before the hours of operation and unlocked. And that's when I had actually caught the manager and actually took him inside.
You basically get the money, the cash that's in the bank?
Yes, yes.
And is it public record how much that was? Or should you not say?
No, it is public record. There's several newspaper articles. And yes, it was $200,600. We basically took every single dollar they had in there. We cleared out the vault and the safe they had inside the vault with all the cash drawers, and actually got away completely scot-free.
They're not even looking for you?
No. At that time, I had a mask on. It was completely camouflaged, netting. It was tucked into a zipped-up pullover. I had gloves. I mean, they had no clue. They literally, in the newspaper articles, thought it was a 6'2" black guy. And that was basically the description they had out. They had no clue. It was a 6'2" scrawny white guy.
So you get away, like, take me through that. You speed away in your Z28, or and then where do you go? How do you hide it? Do you not spend it? What's your partner do?
Yeah, it was mainly, the Z28 was just a emergency getaway car. We left that a distance away from the actual bank, and my partner at that time, he was actually the lookout, and he was parked down the road on the main highway, and we were in contact through the phones. And basically I had the actual bank teller drive me out into the country, because we were on the edge of town, and had her drive me out into the country to a point and drop me off. And actually, after she dropped me off, we went back to the bank. He actually was about 30 seconds behind and actually picked me up. So they never actually saw the getaway car. All they knew is that she had dropped me off at this location, these woods out in the country. And so we were actually back down to Indy, and what I later found out is they had helicopters and all the state troopers and sheriffs and everything canvassing those woods looking for us. And we were down in Indianapolis in a hotel counting the money. I always believed that there was a God, but it was more of a genie in a bottle type of thing. And I would always pray just when I needed something. And so I actually prayed before the bank robbery. And
what'd you pray?
Before Kanye West made the little Jesus piece popular, I used to have on my necklace the head of Jesus with some little diamonds going through the brow, and on the backside I had little praying hands and a little cross, and that was the piece that hung on my necklace. Understanding that capacity at that time with just that basic head knowledge of God, I used to tell people I was a Christian, and and try to do the right thing. And even though I was doing so much bad, I'd try to do a bunch of good to try to balance that. And so I prayed.
Sunday stone covering, Saturday sand.
Exactly. And so I literally prayed. I mean, I remember holding that piece in my hand and praying to God that, God, if you let me get away with this, I'll stop everything. I'll walk away from this whole lifestyle. I'll never participate in anything illegal again. I'll get a legitimate job, and I'll stop all of this.
Interesting prayer. Let me get away with this illegal activity, and then I'll be done. I'll be yours. I think innocently, maybe not so innocently, I think we all do that in a certain way. Let me have this, and it's all coming out of a selfish desire. Let me have this, and then you can have me for the rest of that time. So it's kind of like, I think we want the Holy Spirit plus or the Holy Spirit minus. You could say that anyway. And there's a blank. And so we got to ask ourselves, what's in that blank? So go ahead. That is amazing.
Yeah, I think we all do that. Even as saved Christians, we all,
yes.
Lord, if you will heal this person, or Lord, if you will, do this or get me this job, then Lord, I'll go to church every Sunday, or I'll start doing a Bible study, or treating my wife better, or whatever it is. And
the way you just said that, it made me think of, it's God, let me be God on this issue, and then you can be God the rest of the way. That's really what that is, isn't it? Gosh, that's amazing.
So I said the prayer, and I'd always had a reputation of I was a man of my word, and I had always tried to honor everything that I had said in different business relationships and dealings that I had, and that was one of those things I took serious. When I did pray to God, I honored that commitment in that prayer.
You did?
And yeah, I literally stopped everything, and that was November of 2001 is when we actually did the bank. And from November until everything had come crashing down in March of that next year, for about 5 months almost, I had stopped everything. I had basically cut all of my business dealings out. We still partied a little bit. I was still partaking in some illegal activities as far as the drug use, but I had stopped any of the business dealings, any of the criminal activities that I was involved with as far as actually selling drugs or any of the other little things that we were involved with, and was actually just kind of living my life. And we were waiting on a couple business opportunities to come through. I had a friend of mine that I told you had a couple teams on the IRL circuit. I was looking at buying into an actual racing team at that time. We had looked at a lot of different things and trying to open up our own club, and I actually just laid low and just kind of stopped everything and was just kind of weighing my options. And and in that period, December of that year, I ended up going down to Costa Rica and spent a couple weeks down there just to kind of relax and get away.
Now, who knows that you did this? Your partner? Anybody else?
At that time, no, it was really just myself and my partner.
Okay, so you're in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Only the two of you know.
Yeah.
5 months getting away with it.
Yeah, this is at that time, we did it in November. December, I'm down there.
Okay.
Costa Rica. I'm constantly checking the papers. They had no clue who it was, no type of leads or anything. And so we're down in Costa Rica just relaxing. And that was the first time that I guess I had gotten completely away from just my friends and that lifestyle and had time to really sit by myself and think. And I think getting alone is so important as a Christian or just an unbeliever, but just getting alone and it's just you and God. And I remember, like it was yesterday, sitting on a hammock in Costa Rica. I'm on the beach, the most beautiful setting you've ever seen, and I'm laid back, and I finally just kind of, for the first time, I believe, honestly called out to God, and just poured out my heart to Him, just telling Him that I knew everything that I was doing was wrong, and I knew that He had created me and designed me for something far greater than what I was involved in.
That's confession.
But I really didn't know what. I didn't know, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. I had been in this lifestyle so long, the devil had tricked me into believing that this is what I was, this was my purpose in life.
He's a deceiver.
I was the life of the party. I was fun. I had a lot of friends, and I was successful at this life. And after you've done it for so long, you almost start to believe that this is the only lifestyle that I can live. It was one of those things where I felt trapped, and I finally called out to God and just asked Him to make Himself real to me and to, show me what my purpose in life was. And
now, was that prayer before your dream?
Yes, this was.
Okay, then talk about your dream.
Well, I had come back right after Christmas. New Year's, ended up, spending some time with some friends, and then got back to Indy beginning of January. And, it was one of those things where I was really just trying to figure out what God was trying to do with me and where I was going with my life. And it's one of those things where it was just the weirdest things because a lot of things were going on around me. People were getting arrested. A lot of people started getting questioned, and it's one of those things I just kept asking God, what am I supposed to be doing? And one night, I went from an area of town around some of friends of mine's house that I knew, at that time. I believed, I guess I didn't know at that time. I found out later through documents I got in court cases that they were under surveillance, that we were all under surveillance. And I ended up going from the north side of town all the way to the west side of town.
Where are you?
In Indianapolis. Okay. And I remember getting followed from the north side of town over to the west side of town. And at that time, I'm just trying to figure out, I had only smoked a little bit of marijuana. It wasn't anything, hallucinatory or anything like that. And man, am I freaking out? What's going on? Am I really being followed? I remember pulling into a gas station.
By a marked car, an unmarked car?
Well, at that time, there was a couple different cars. There was a bunch of unmarked cars, and I was actually going to go pick some stuff up that we were going to be using. And I had talked to somebody on the phone that I had, had a feeling that I had heard they had gotten arrested. I had a feeling that they were telling, and found out later, yeah, they had told. And I think they, had let the police know that I was going to be going and picking some stuff up. But I had gotten followed over to the west side where I was going to pick some stuff up. And I stopped short of that house of where I was going to and stopped at a gas station and ended up talking to some people at that gas station that I knew. And I looked down the street and I saw 5 cop cars. And they were parked way down the street in a parking lot. And I thought, this is really happening.
As you listen to Will's vulnerability, have you thought about where you are? Is Satan tempting you with something shiny? Maybe it's in a bottle, maybe it's a toke, a smoke, a line. Maybe it's the shape of a body. Are you tempted to click or to drive somewhere where you shouldn't? Are you tempted to cheat on an expense account in order to gain a little bit of money? Or does he have you hooked? Has he deceived you so much that you're hooked and you might be all in sin? And if so, you probably understand that he's an accuser. And before God right now, he's saying, look what I found. And you might be feeling a little bit destroyed. You're dying inside because he's a destroyer, the sinker. What was designed to take the bait down, the hook down, the line down, has taken you down. Well, there's good news. Jesus Christ is the answer. He can free you from your destruction. While there may be consequences for your sin, he can give you a new life, one of hope, not wishful thinking, but confident assurance of a life with him. I'd invite you today to pray with me. God, I can't, you can. I can't pay for the penalty of my sin. God, in Christ, you can. I can't free myself from the power of sin. God, in Christ, you can. God, I make you Lord of my life. I can't is repentance, you can is faith. If you've prayed that prayer today, I invite you to visit our website, therestorationroad.com, and share your story with us. And be sure to tune in next week for the conclusion of Will Robbins' story of restoration.